It is 6:01 here in the region. It is Monday. It is July the 13th. It is Summer of Chuck here on WJOB. Your bright spot on the radio dial. I guess this is a non-Bob day. I did not know that. I thought he was here today. So if anybody would like to co-host, 219-845-1100, unless Lynette wants to jump in and join me. No? Interested? No, not a fan? Me either. Okay. That's fine. Somebody has to keep our callers in check. Let's get to traffic and weather right out of the gate, because that's what you come here for. So traffic, everything looking good here in Indiana. 80-94, 65, Skyway Toll Road, everything looking good. On the Illinois side, right now equally as smooth. You got a little slowdown Bishop Ford into the Dan Ryan on in. Looks pretty good at the moment. 80 east and west, 294, everything looking good on the Illinois side. Lynette, how's the weather?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 68 degrees with highs of 91 and lows of 71. It's going to be hot with plenty of sunshine. Caution advised if doing strenuous activities outside. Then tonight will be humid with a crystal clear sky. Tomorrow and Tuesday we'll be having highs of 94 and lows of 73, mostly sunny and toasty conditions. Then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 94 and lows of 72. Should be mostly sunny and hot. Danger of dehydration and heat stroke if outside for extended periods of time.
Fantastic, thank you. Obviously, the big news over the weekend, Senator Lindsey Graham passed away unexpectedly after a trip to the Ukraine. So if you want to talk about that, I'd love to hear from Republicans on that. I was hoping Bob would be here to kind of get his thoughts, the Republican perspective on this. He was 71 years old. Breaking news this morning that they're saying that this was basically a tear in his aortic valve, basically heart disease, but that's pending. But obviously that was a big shock, and we're obviously still watching, keeping an eye out for Mitch McConnell to see who has talked to him and who hasn't. We have some local news to get to and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot. So, I mean, what do you guys, what's on your mind this weekend? What's going on? I'm throwing it out there. If there's people that want to throw out, let me know what's on your mind, what's going on in news, what's important to you. I was asking a few people, I said, so what's going on? You know, I usually kind of ask people what they're keeping an eye on, what's important to them. A few people wrote back about a few different things going on. So we had an overnight boating accident near the Hammond Marina with one fatality. This is that time of year where people are out on the boats, out on the water, and unfortunately we have accidents along the way. I know we had an accident up in Lake Geneva in the storm last week, and they had multiple fatalities there. So again, you know, I took my wife out to Whiting yesterday so she can go to the beach. It's that time of year, you know, obviously take your kids to the beach, enjoy your time, but keep an eye on them, and you know, keep an eye on the other kids too, and keep an eye out if anybody's doing something unsafe. You know, flag it, tell them, hey, knock it off. We're all here to have a good time. There was a domestic incident in Munster as well. Instead of talking about data centers, we can talk about domestics in Munster. There was a domestic incident over the weekend. A lot of people were texting me about and asking me about what's going on. We can get into that later as well. But like I said, what's on your mind? What are you paying attention to? 219-845-1100. We got some calls. Let's go ahead and take the first caller of the week. Good morning, caller. You are on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing, Chuck?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Yeah, why don't you go to next room, knock on the door. Why don't you have Preacher come over and sit by that microphone this morning as your host?
Well, yeah, I wish we could. I hear some of his.
Yeah.
It's always funny. I hear his flashbacks occasionally. Thanks to Larry the K, he got a lot of the flashbacks to us, and it, you know, again that was my sort of when you know I was first getting involved in WJLB, and it just reminds me that it's always funny because a lot of those things that he was dealing with back then we're still dealing with today here in the region with corruption and indictments and things like that. So it's always funny how things change but they stay the same. So what's on your mind this morning?
Yeah, now Yeah, just to let everybody know, because it's going to get extremely warm Tuesday to Friday. So this goes out to Bill from Lowell and all the listeners. We've only got 163 days till winter's here, so you got enough time to get your scrapers out, your snow shovels ready, your snow blowers ready, and then in 163 days, Bill from Lowell can start going ice fishing. So.
Well, yes.
But another thing is about the hot weather, the studio. I wonder when the owner of the station is going to charge the host to start paying to be on there so that they can afford that NIPSCO bills that are going back up again. Somebody had approached me and told me that, I don't know if it was, there's went up to that much that month or it went up $500, but they said $500 it went up, the NIPSCO bill going up again.
Well, I mean,
how can we, what can we do to protest or do something to knock their socks off and make them chill out and quit, the big shots quit putting money in their pocket and let us low income and fixed income people afford our NIPSCO bills?
Well, I mean, look, this is what happens when you allow, everybody wants to tell me about how government needs to regulate things and do this and do that. And then you let government create monopolies. And this is what happens. I mean, this is the, if there was competition, somebody else would be coming to town saying, hey, we can do this better and cheaper. But unfortunately, you have two things here. You have two things at play. The one is it's a monopoly, and for two, it's a heavily regulated industry where, you constantly see these arguments about, the federal government's making them keep their coal plant, operating and, green energy and subsidies and all. I mean, there's so much at play when it comes to the energy sector. There's so much regulation. There's so much going on there. And, anytime that you have, government incentives and things like that, it gets complicated. It pollutes the free market. I mean, all of this happening, this is all textbook, Trucker Mike. I mean, all of this stuff, government regulation, government intervention, all of this stuff is textbook. And everybody says, everybody's bored when we start talking about, regulations and things like that and how it affects the free market. Everybody gets it's you guys you're making stuff up again. You guys are always talking about that. And then when it affects their NIPSCO bill, they go, hey, what's going on? I go, all those things I tried to tell you about with government regulation and monopolies, all that stuff is coming home to roost. And now your NIPSCO bill is, up 20%. But
yeah. And then another thing is, when we had that storm come through and it derailed the trains over in South Shore, I just saw on the news or on an article, it's going to be another couple weeks till they get that thing fixed.
Yeah.
So it's been how many? Yeah. How many weeks has it been since that happened?
Why don't we get into that real quick? It is week 3 of the 12-hour repair of the South Shore line. I was going to pull up the latest schedule. Like every day I get an email from them. Hey, we're going to a revised flexible schedule for whatever, for holiday. I mean, like I don't think they even know what they're doing at this point. They're like, just send trains, trains.
I'm gonna let you go. Hey, Chuck, I'm going to let you go on that. But just to everybody, the listeners, everybody, it's going to be from Tuesday to Friday. It's going to be extremely warm. So be careful with your household pets. Make sure they're watered and properly safe. Make sure your family and friends, and check on everybody. If you don't have enough proper cooling, there's cooling centers around this area. So, just everybody, just be very careful from Tuesday to Friday because it's going to be warm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to let you go. So I'm going to let you guys go so you can, all the others can call in and yakety yak, and everybody just have a nice day and just everybody behave.
Yeah, behave. That's good advice. Good advice. Behave. Check on your pets. Water your children. Check on your neighbors. All that good stuff. Thank you, Trucker Mike. Appreciate the call. He did bring up the South Shore, so why don't we go over the latest alert that just came out a little bit ago. Passengers are advised that the South Shore line continues to operate Lakeshore Corridor and Monon Corridor service on a weekend holiday train schedule. This temporary operational change is a result of the freight derailment on June 24th. So What they're doing now in order to supplement the weekend holiday schedule, Lakeshore and Monon are providing extra train service. So check the schedule. I mean, it seems to be changing every day, but they added an extra 5:15 train. They added an extra 6:19 train. They're actually it sounds like what they were trying to do was add extra trains to the Monon to supplement they call it the Lakeshore. So good luck. Like I said, people that ride the train regularly have been reaching out to me, not happy about the busing, and it seems like they finally got things kind of sorted out, but it's unfortunate that it takes so long to fix something that's seemingly so simple. But hey, do whatever, get your hours in. What else? You got some calls? Let's take some calls. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes,
Good morning, sir.
I heard on WJOB that Big Frank Sausage in East Chicago was having an anniversary.
Yep, it was his.
So I decided to stop by.
Yep, go ahead.
Were you there for that?
No, I missed it. I saw it. I was kind of wrapped up in something else. I didn't make it out there, but I saw all the posts for I think it was the 15th anniversary, and congratulations. I mean, not a lot of businesses are making it into their second decade. So congratulations Stan has done a fantastic job of just sort of finding a sort of a niche for people, just, a local little place with good food, good environment,
right?
Place I don't, I can take my kids and not have to worry about any nonsense happening because he keeps a good eye on things. He's always there sitting in the corner, making sure people behave themselves. But kudos to him on 15 years.
Well, I had the Polish hot dog with a side of fries, and those fries were world class.
Yeah.
Whoa.
No, he does a great job of, and I talked to him quite a bit on this, and he's always kind of telling me what he's up to. I mean, he does a good job of curating his menu. It's not just, go buy a bunch of frozen stuff and, have the truck come and bring a bunch of frozen food and cook it. I mean, he does a good job of picking out quality ingredients. I mean, he's always telling me, it seems like every week I'm getting a text from him telling me how much the potatoes and the tomatoes have gone up in cost. But he spends the money. He does it right. A lot of local businesses. That's why I like eating local, because I know that they're going to use real food and real ingredients. Even though, it's going to be a little more expensive, but it's worth it to have a good meal that there's nothing weird in it.
I only ate half the fries, and I took the other half home to have for supper. And I ate them cold, and they were still excellent. Yeah, cold.
That's the sign of a good fry and cooked in real oil when they're still good a few hours later.
Really?
That's how you know they.
Well, I'm not a cook.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they use that fake oil, they get really weird after a few hours. But if they're cooked right, they will hold together for leftovers.
Well, you just got done talking to Trucker Mike, and he was there too. And we chatted for a while, and if you think that because he was a career trucker that he has a big belly, big trucker belly, no,
no
big trucker belly on Trumper Mike.
No, he's done a good job of after his little scare. He's done a good job of working on his health and things like that. Hey, I wanted to transition over to Lindsey Graham. So Lindsey Graham passes away this weekend at age 71 from a sudden illness. We're hearing now that it was essentially a tear in his aortic valve as a relation to cardiovascular disease. But so what are your thoughts? I mean, it was interesting, the idea that he had just come back from the Ukraine. It sounds like he was visiting a drone factory in the Ukraine and comes back. So, I mean, a couple people had mentioned the idea of sometimes when you take long flights, you have these I forget what they call it, thrombosis or something like that. So people were speculating maybe that's what happened, but it sounds like it was a issue with his aortic valve. So what are your thoughts? I mean, we talked last week about sort of the vacuum on the Democratic side, sort of this idea where they're looking for leadership. And now you've got, on the Republican side, you've got Lindsey Graham passing away. You've got Mitch McConnell sort of MIA at the moment with a medical issue. We're not sure what's going on with him, but it doesn't sound like he'll be coming back. I mean, what does this do to the Republican Party, and what does the future look like in your mind?
Well, I think this is not good news for the Ukrainians, because he was a strong advocate for supporting the Ukrainians. I understand he's made 11 trips over there, and So I would say that the President Zelensky, my guess, he was shocked when he heard that what happened. I mean, the way I learned about it, I had woken at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I thought I could watch a little TV for a while. That'll put me back to sleep. And I flipped it on, and there was the flashing news about Graham passing, but they just said nothing specific about his heart or anything like that. I heard that from another station that they suspected it was a heart kind of thing.
Right.
But when it came to foreign policy issues, I mean, he was a big player.
Well, here's the thing, Walt. So they called him, one of the nice way to put it is they called him an interventionist, which is sort of the opposite of, I call myself sort of a, unapologetically, I'm an isolationist. So not only you talk about the Ukraine, but also Israel is probably concerned right now because you have a lot of sort of the traditional, people used to call the Republicans war hawks and things like that. Now we call them interventionists. I mean, there are people like Lindsey Graham that, like you said, they were very, very involved with Ukraine, very involved with Israel, basically. I mean, so this becomes a question. I mean, it seems like we are moving to a more isolationist stance, or the younger generations are more isolationist, right? Traditionally, sort of your generation was more interventionist. I mean, going anywhere we needed to go, Vietnam, et cetera, help the Ukrainians, help Israel, send them money, send them weapons. And the next generation is more isolationist on these things. So, I mean, is that the posture that we're going to start taking? I mean, my argument is we can no longer afford to be the world's police. But also when you start, I mean, again, this idea that we're providing weapons to Ukraine, and this is what I've been saying, just because the Ukrainian is pushing the button on a missile, it's essentially, it's our missile, it's our technology being used at the Russians. So you're essentially in a proxy war at that point. And what are the consequences of that? We saw over the weekend, we increased airstrikes on Iran, and sort of because they can't do anything to us, they sort of just blindly start shooting missiles at their neighbors. And I'm sure a lot of their neighbors are like, wait, what did we do here? Why, so we were hearing about multiple missile strikes in different neighboring countries. And so again, we go in and strike Iran, and then their neighbors pay the consequences. So, there's a lot to be said for the idea of being an interventionist. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm pre baby boomer. I was born before the war, before the Second World War, and I grew up hearing about war. Members of the family were at war and so forth, and I would say that I became very well aware that communists were bad people. They were the badniks, and I would say that my attitude wasn't that we need to go confront them at every point and get into big wars with them at every point. But I would say that when war did come, I didn't. I would say I supported the effort because the commies were badniks, and people would talk about how we want to fight them over there and not here, kind of thing. And but I would say that
here's the question, though, Walt. I mean, is there would you be open-minded to considering the idea? And like I've always said, we have a military-industrial complex going back to even I always talk about Eisenhower warning us about that. In order to spend a lot of money on the military, you need boogeymen. So can we agree that it's possible that our military-industrial complex created a boogeyman? And so one of the things, like we were talking here a couple weeks ago about the MK Ultra hearings and things like that, everything, and even in the MK Ultra hearings, they said, well, we had to do it because the Russians and the Chinese were doing it, right? So everything that we did, like these MK Ultra tests and things like that, they say, well, the Chinese and the Russians were doing it, so we had to do it too. So it's always a sort of like idea of, well, the Russians did it, so we had to respond. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of this sort of, and again, I'm not dismissing the idea of the Russians, the communism, things like that, but there's also sort of this boogeyman philosophy that's come out of Washington of, well, they're doing it, so we have to do it. The space race, all these different things, everything was sort of like, well, we have to compete with the Soviets.
Well, there was a time when the government did go to war. I basically gave them the benefit of the doubt. But then I went to war myself.
Right.
And since that experience, I would say I'm much more judicious, I'm not uncritical. I opposed the invasion of Iraq. I thought it was insanity. And one of my concerns was that it would benefit the Ayatollahs in Iran. And but as far as Trump's attacking the Iranians with respect to their missile and nuclear weapon development, I supported it. In fact, when it came time to his ceasefire, I was pretty apoplectic about it. You know, my attitude is that I'm judicious about going to war, but once you engage the war, don't screw around.
Well,
use our strength is our air and naval power. No screwing around. Go after them and bring it to a decision as rapidly as possible, because war is a dirty business, and the longer you have it go, the more innocent people get killed.
Right. Well, but one of the things that I've always observed, Walt, it seems like it's the people that go to war that come home and don't want anybody else. You know, they don't want future generations to go to war. Once they've seen it firsthand, they come home and they become sort of isolationists, and they say, well, I don't want anybody else to go through what I've gone through. Or in my case, I now have an 18-year-old. So obviously, you know, I always I'm keeping an eye on things like that, because I don't want to see him go through anything either. So, you know, again, it's like one of those things we always say, it's Congress that wants us to go to war, and they send other people's children, right? So, I mean, that's always been sort of the cry that, it's easy to declare war. It's a different thing when you're sending your own sons and daughters to go there. So, hey, Walt, we do have to take a break. I appreciate your call as always. Appreciate your wisdom. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more Summer of Chuck here on WJOB.
For over 100 years, Roofers Local 26 has been keeping Northwest Indiana dry and safe. Since 1919, our highly trained members have built a reputation for skills, safety, and reliability. With a 4-year apprenticeship and certifications in OSHA safety, first aid, and CPR, we deliver quality you can trust. When you need roofing done right, choose Roofers Local 26, protecting what matters most for over a century. For more information, visit www.roofers26.com.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, powers health.
When your home needs help, the last thing you need is a faceless corporation or sales-driven franchise. At Myers Companies, we've been proudly local since 1951, born and raised right here in Northwest Indiana. We're family-owned and operated, built on trust, hard work, and integrity. And because we're family, we treat you like family. Your comfort and safety always come first. For HVAC, plumbing, and electrical done right, choose Myers Companies. Local, family-owned, here for your family.
Ogren Insurance, Hammond's oldest family-owned independent insurance agency, now in its 3rd generation, providing clients in the Chicago area with products from quality insurance companies to handle your every need. Regardless of driving history, Ogren Insurance can find the right coverage for you at competitive prices. To learn more about the insurance solutions and services we offer throughout Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or visit our website, ogreninsurance.com. We're located at 6929 Homan Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. Do business locally with someone you know and trust.
6:25 in the region. Chuck Pullen here. Bob is out today, so it is simply Summer of Chuck and Summer of Lizette here on WJOB. She loves it when I do that. Now she's going to start playing all sorts of sound effects in my ears. Drive me crazy. We want to hear from you. What's going on? What's on your mind today? Obviously, we had Trucker Mike earlier called in, talked about the heat. If you're working outdoors, time to get those Gatorades, what do they call them? The squinchies, the squeezies. Get those going. Stay hydrated. Check on your neighbors. Water your pets. Water your kids. It's one of those weeks you have to keep an eye on things. Make sure the old folks in the neighborhood, their air conditionings are working, stuff like that. Check on people once in a while. Be a good neighbor, won't you? Let's check in. So I mentioned this earlier. This story comes to us from Region News Source, our old friend Paul Goddard. Munster police officers and Superior ambulance paramedics responded around 9:45 Saturday to the 9300 block of Chestnut in Munster. When officers arrived, they found an adult woman outside the home screaming for help after suffering a gunshot wound. She was transported to a local hospital. The suspected shooter, believed to be the victim's husband, remained inside the residence. The Northwest Indiana SWAT team, Northwest Regional SWAT team responded and successfully negotiated with the suspect, who exited the home and was taken into custody without incident. So a lot of people reached out to me about that, said what's going on in Munster. It's one of those unfortunate situations. It always seems like when you have violence in a community like that, it's unfortunately a lot of domestics. I know my wife says they deal with a lot of that. Seems like it's always an issue, domestic violence, domestic incidents like this. Unfortunate story, but luckily it seems like the woman was not injured too seriously. We're taking your calls at 219-845-1100. What's on your mind? Also, some other breaking news this morning. We found out that Sam Neill, most well known from the movie Jurassic Park, has died at age 78. Lynette, were you a fan of those kind of movies? I forget, you're a little younger than that generation. Are you a Jurassic Park fan or any of those movies?
No, I wasn't, but my cousin just texted me about that now.
No, and so for a lot of us, I was around when Jurassic Park first hit the theaters, and it was such a big movie. It was like the big summer. It was like the big thing that we talked about because it was so groundbreaking. I mean, just the effects and everything about it. It was such a great story. And then he went on to do a whole bunch of other movies in that time frame. But Sam Neill passes away at age 78. Condolences to his friends and family. Left behind a legacy of great movies. So were you a fan of those kind of? I mean, are you a fan of that genre of movies, like Jurassic Park, stuff like that?
I've never seen the old Jurassic Park movies, but my cousin is, and she told me all about them. But I've seen the newer ones.
See, now the original one, the newer ones got ridiculous, like the raptors that can open doors and talk on phones and stuff like that. It's like one of those things where it's like every sequel. It's like, let's just have fun with it. But it's like, horror movies or anything else. You got to see the original. You got to just at some point, or if you know what you do, I've been seeing a lot of the older movie theaters and stuff like that. They're running older movies. It's always fun. I know you like to direct and stuff like that. From a directing perspective, if you can see Jurassic Park in the theater, go see it. If you've never seen it before, go see it in the theater. It'll blow your mind. Again, and think about that in the perspective of, the graphics and the technology from however many years ago it was, 30 years ago now or whatever, 25, 30 years, I don't even know. But I mean, at the time, just the effects, everything about it was groundbreaking. It was a great story. And, that was the summer of Jurassic Park. And then he, like I said, he did a few other movies and left quite a legacy in Hollywood. So we're taking your calls, 219-845-1100. Bob is on his way to a meeting that could have been a Zoom. So no Bob today, just Lynette and I just taking your phone calls, talking about what's on your mind. We talked earlier about Lindsey Graham, who unexpectedly passed away over the weekend after coming back from a trip from the Ukraine. But I mean, like I said, I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what's on your mind, because this is that time of year. There's not a whole lot going on in the news world. One of the other things that I wanted to hit today was finally President Trump is talking about Social Security reform, which is something that we've talked about quite a bit here on WGLB recently. We've talked about the idea that, obviously we have a system that's been on the verge of bankruptcy for a long time, basically going insolvent. The latest we've heard that there may be, we've been hearing this for years, but we've been hearing, in this case, we just heard that there's maybe 8 years left in the Social Security system as we know it. So President Trump essentially had mentioned to the press last week that he's looking at an Australian type retirement system. But he also, we recently had this new idea, which I think is a great idea. This idea of starting investment accounts for children. So we just started that as well. I believe it starts with, and if anybody's heard about this or anybody has newborn children, grandchildren, if anybody has seen this yet, let me know about it because I'm really curious. This is actually a great way to do this. Is essentially the government will give newborns, put $1,000 into an account and get them started. And then you as a parent, grandparents, I mean, anybody that would like can invest in their future. And so what's great about that is, I mean, I always talk about, like my son who just graduated, I said, one of the first meetings we had when he became an adult, we had a meeting with my financial planners and we said, okay, I want to start a retirement account for him. We're going to put his graduation money in there. And, I'm going to make sure that it's funded, make sure that he does that. And that's one of those things I always tell people. I said, as you go to these graduation parties, as you know kids in your family, in your circle that are graduating, just take a few minutes. It's a boring thing. They don't care about it. Take a few minutes and say, look, do your future self a favor, start a retirement account. Put your graduation money, put $50 or $100 from your paycheck. Lynette, are you doing that? You do? No, she doesn't want to talk. Go ahead. Tell me. Have you started a retirement account, Lynette?
I put in like $100 my check in my savings account each time.
So no.
Yeah. That's
okay.
All I do.
So at some point we're going to have my financial planners are going to join us on the radio once they get permission, and we're going to talk about this because I know you don't think that we're going to be around in 10 years, but if we are, you're going to be happy because this is the thing. There's a whole thing about compounding interest. Start early. Even if you just put $50 or $100 away, just put it away. You won't miss it. And then you'll thank yourself later. But again, this idea of starting an investment account for newborns is fantastic because ultimately the idea is we will transition from having a Social Security type system to an individual account type system. And obviously with compounding interest, if you start putting money in, like when a child is born, when you start putting, put their birthday money in, whatever, you have baptism money, put it in a retirement account and let it grow. It's the greatest gift that you can give somebody. But let's talk about this a little bit. President Trump is exploring whether elements of Australia's retirement system could help address growing concerns about retirement savings and the long-term outlook for Social Security, Bloomberg reported on Sunday. So Trump had asked the Treasury Secretary and the Commerce Secretary to examine Australia's employer-funded pension model as part of a broader discussion with Congress on retirement policy. He says they have a plan in Australia which people really like. It's worked out really well. We're going to be talking about that with Congress and see if we can implement it here. Says Australia's retirement system, often cited by asset managers and policy experts, requires employers to contribute 12% of workers' salaries to privately managed retirement accounts. The system has grown to roughly $3.1 trillion and expected to become one of the world's largest pension pools. What's interesting about this, so if for instance, like our Indiana toll road, so you have these funds. So just like here in the United States, you have like teacher pension funds and things like that. So they essentially have to take money out of your pay and put it somewhere. And so what ends up happening is these funds look for things to invest in. And so in this case, they invest in things like our toll road, for instance. So, you have these pools of money and they're looking for things to invest in, and they diversify their money. So some of it's in the stock market, some of it's, obviously in bonds and precious metals and things like that, but they also have money to invest in other things. So one of the nice sort of side effects of an idea like this is now we will create pools of money here in the United States that we can use to invest in things like infrastructure programs. So, privately funded infrastructure, we see that a lot here in the region. We've got, the Klein Avenue Bridge, we've got the Skyway, we've got the toll road, and in Illinois, in Chicago, they own the parking meters. So again, this is a great way for the United States to reinvest in itself instead of having, Australia and people like that investing in this country. One of the things, we talk about, I drove past BP yesterday. Obviously, the lockouts continue there. I drove past, honked, and do the same. If you're going through there, we had the big sort of kerfuffle last week about who's taking money from BP. And I think at this point, everybody's given back their checks to BP. But again, the same idea is that when we, as the workers, when you're creating these pools of money, now you can invest. And so that's one of the arguments that I have is, when you have these unions, you have these different groups, you can invest money from, you can invest these pension funds into your own company. So if everybody at a company works, everybody works at that company, you can take money, they can create a pension, they can put money, they can invest into the company so that you essentially have a stake. You are a stakeholder in your own company. You're not just gathering a paycheck. You're actually invested in your company. You're investing in your community. And like I said, they can invest in toll roads. They can invest in infrastructure, private water companies and all sorts of things. We talked about earlier about NIPSCO and green energy. They can invest if again, your, organization creates a pension fund, they can invest in green energy. You can invest in whatever you want. So I think it's sort of a win-win. Plus it takes a lot of government out of the loop. So one of the things that we know about Social Security is, traditionally Social Security was based on the idea of having multiple people paying into a system while one person's paying out. Originally, you had up to like 8 people supporting one person. Now it's down to like 2 or 3. So like, for instance, we're expecting that the Social Security fund, the fund is projected to be depleted in 2032, and the combined retirement and disability funds are expected to run dry by 2034. So, you have people like my generation that are investing into a system that we have no guarantee that it will be there for us. So I just pulled up something here. It said if Congress takes no action before the dates, so 2032, 2034, they will only be able to cover about 78 to 83% of promised benefits. So at some point, somebody needs to step up and say, hey, we need to reform this system. And one of the unfortunate things about Congress is that we have a group of people that are afraid to be the one to step up because it's an unpopular thing. Again, going back to this idea that the people that are voting are the people that are traditionally on Social Security, and the younger people, the ones that are paying into the system, aren't voting as much. So at the end of the day, anytime that you say, hey, we need to fix Social Security, all the people that vote for you go, no, that's my money, don't touch it. And again, we have this sort of generational argument of we get that, but also, leave a little something for the next generation. So we have, and again, Bob brought this up a couple weeks ago, and you guys chimed in and thoroughly disagreed with him on it. But at some point, we have to start having the discussion about fixing the system. But we have a whole bunch of people in Congress that are afraid to act, afraid to be the one to say, hey, we should do something about this. It's a similar argument to when you talk about like the data centers, for instance. There was a great discussion last week, and I don't want to get into data centers again here this week. But again, even on Friday, they talked about it, the idea that when, Kuziak came in, they had a great discussion about funding communities and how data centers create this new pool of money for communities. But also, sort of my one point on that was, if you're the elected official and you look at it and say, hey, we are going to have a shortfall, we are not going to have money to cover projects, so we need to do something. And then you see this opportunity for a data center to come in. So you say, okay, we're going to bring in money for this data center. The data center will bring in money, but then if you lose the election in the process, it's really not going to help, right? So it's like, hey, we brought in a data center, we brought in a pool of money to help cover expenses, but then you lose the election because data centers are unpopular. So now you've basically helped the next guy. The next guy's going to come in and say, hey, we're against data centers, but hey, we have this money because the guys before us, allowed data centers to move in. So we'll use the money, the ill-gotten gains to help the community. So it's sort of a catch-22 there. You said we got some phone calls. Why don't we do this? We'll take our break. We'll come back. We'll take your calls at 219-845-1100.
Need clean energy without the junk? I'm Jim Diedlow. I used to live on burgers, football, basketball, baseball. Now I'm gluten-free and more into biking, golf, and yoga. But I still need energy. That's why I love Paradise, developed by Emily D. Edwards right here in Cherville. My favorite is Paradise Packs Strawberry with gluten-free pretzels. Find it soon at Strachan Van Til or at spreadparadise.com.
Fox Point bursts with free concerts throughout July. Our Wednesday night concert series features Hairbangers Ball, Hello Weekend, All American Throwbacks, and Keith Jackson and the Triple Dose Band. Enjoy the Northwest Indiana Symphony Orchestra on Friday, July 17th, and come back for Marrakesh Express and Echoes of Pompeii on Friday, July 31st. Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is just minutes from I-80-94 and parking is free. Visit foxpoint.org for our full schedule. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
The best just got better. Tech Credit Union is proud to celebrate being recognized with Best of the Region, Best CEO, and Best Banker. To celebrate, we're offering 3 special CD offers with rates up to 4.5% APY for a limited time. Visit techcu.org or stop by your nearest Tech Credit Union branch or call 800-276-8324 to learn more. Tech Credit Union, the better option for people and communities we serve. Member NCUA. Minimum deposit required. Offer subject to change. Visit techcu.org for complete details.
6:41 here in the region. Chuck Pullen here this morning with you. Annette in the producer's booth. Bob on his way to a meeting that could have been a Zoom meeting. So it's just us. It's just us. It's you. It's I. You're on your way to work. I want to hear from you. What's on your mind? 845-1100. At some point, I probably should have asked Bob if the Lieutenant Governor was available. He's in the news once again. We'll talk about that after we take your phone calls, and we'll get your thoughts on his comments. I'm sure we'll have him on at some point. We'll add that to the list of things to ask him about. But in the meantime, we're taking your calls. So good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Chuck, you ever listen to NPR at all?
No, they always guilt me into buying coffee mugs. I'd rather not. But what are they talking about? What are they outraged by this week? I thought NPR went out of business. Didn't the one around here close? Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know about the one around here, but the one in Chicago is rolling right along, and it's always good to listen to because it's the old theory of keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But one of the things they're talking about now is when is Elon Musk going to be held accountable for all the deaths caused by the demise of USAID?
Estimated death. Puts that in big air quotes. Estimated. But yeah, go ahead. Let's get into this.
Dude, you just told me you don't listen to it, and now you're going to tell me I heard what I didn't hear?
No. The Internet's making all of these stories up, and everything is estimated deaths because they're making numbers up. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
I'm not listening to the Internet.
Okay.
I'm talking about NPR. The word estimate is not in there.
Understand real quick. The current media, the traditional media, is a big circle you know what. So when one person writes a story that attacks Elon, the entire media sphere. So like even right now, I pull up USAID. There's articles.
Oh, I never knew. Boy, thank God you said that, Chuck.
But I'm just saying, you understand
I wasn't aware of that.
That every single publication, the New Yorker, the New York Times, the Guardian, NPR, Forbes, you name it, they're all writing the same story at the same time because they all
they
work
are?
in this. I'm just saying. So it's not just NPR. It's the entire media sphere is writing stories this week attacking Elon Musk. So let's go ahead and get into it, though. It's an interesting topic. I know.
Well, I didn't.
I'm saying just because I didn't because I didn't listen to NPR doesn't mean I don't know the story, because everybody in the media, but they're also putting estimated deaths in air quotes. But let's go ahead and talk about it. Go ahead. Let's talk about it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna write all that down. I've never heard that.
I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying to work with you here. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, I'm trying to work with you, brother.
Let's go.
NPR doesn't use the word estimated. Okay, number one. They're accusing Elon Musk of being a murderer for cutting USAID, when in reality, USAID was a State Department money laundering employment agency for liberal dorks in the D.C., Virginia area. So when you want to have cuts in government, this is what happens. When conservatives go, hey, you know what, we probably don't really need that. For example, let's say Munster, Indiana. Oh, hey, we can get $17 million for free. Oh, except we got a narrow ridge road down at 2 lanes. Oh, we'll do it. It'll work. Okay, that's stupid, okay? But like I said, the words they're using for Elon Musk is, when will he be held accountable for all the deaths he's caused?
So which
is insane.
So I've got the New Yorker article, and the very second paragraph says, the 700,000+ that have estimated, doing it in air quotes again, to have died, because everybody's saying the same thing. You can't just say that without backing it up. So you say estimated. So estimated to have died since, at the end of the year since.
And that's a quote from NPR, right?
No, it's a quote from the guy who everybody stole the story from. So this story comes from a historian and journalist, Richard Rhodes, who wrote an article in the journal of the AMA Journal saying man-made death and neglected mortality. So they all, again, understand the entire media. They see a story like this and they all grab onto it. So all of these people are citing each other as the source of made up information. I mean, that's my whole point. Is it's not just NPR. It's an entire media sphere that's basically using each other as sources, and they can't really half the time they can't even tell you who the original source was. But so let's get into it.
Well, I think most people who don't have their head up their ass and don't vote for Democrats, I think they're probably aware of that. But like I said, I wasn't quoting New York Times. I was talking about NPR. Now, here's another little interesting story for you. On our march to communism and socialism, led by Mandani, the Muslim Islamist out in New York, turns out there's an imam down in Dallas who, once Lindsey Graham died, said, "Thank God he's dead. May he burn in hell," or all that good stuff in that.
Yeah,
if
no.
Anybody thinks that this socialist movement with communism, with Mandami and these folks, is not based on the fake religion, the cult of Islam, wake up. They are looking to put Sharia law wherever they can.
Okay, well,
just recently in North Carolina, they had a little town who a gentleman moved in. He bought a house and bought a plot of land and then went to the town council and wanted to put a mosque in. The people revolted so incredibly aggressive against this guy. They voted it down unanimously, and the people have come out and said, look, they testified. Everybody stepped right up to the mic and took their 2 minutes and said, no, you guys are a cult. You promote women being second-class citizens to everything. You want us to dress up in sheets, the whole shot.
Okay, so
anybody who thinks the cult of Islam is not out to get America and they're not hooked up with the Democrats, can you believe the Democrats actually dragged this imam out to Washington, D.C. and had him do the opening prayer in the United States House of Representatives?
Okay.
Representatives. And this guy is hooked up with international terrorism associated with the murder of U.S. soldiers. That's your Democratic Party today.
You're all over the place, but let's rein you in a little bit. So let's talk about.
You can keep track, Chuck. I'm going to hang up and let you keep
Thank
talking.
you. I appreciate that. Okay, so you mentioned a lot of stuff that will segue into Lieutenant Governor Michael Beckwith's comments. We'll get to that later in the show, but I want to bring it all the way back to his original topic, because again, he hits on a good topic and then he moves on to 5 other things. So there's this, as he mentioned, the traditional media is claiming that the Doge cuts, I mean, they're again, all over the board claiming that all these cuts led to hundreds of thousands of deaths. So Elon Musk Doge cuts to USAID, they estimated that there were 700,000+ that have died because of the USAID closure, but nobody can really dial in, well, where's it coming from? Like who is it? That seems pretty, that's a lot of people. Like, who are they? What's going on? And so what's interesting is that, again, this comes back to why I keep saying estimated. Everybody puts it out as fact. So by the time it hit NPR, by the time it hit the New York Times, it was a fact. And then when you roll back a couple of, stories, when you go back the source of the source of the source, what you find out is it's an opinion piece with an estimation. So let's talk about where this came from. So, like what they're saying is it was estimated because what a big part of USAID did was humanitarian response, disaster relief for people that are fleeing war or conflict zones, driven out by floods. So the WHO estimates, so basically saying that when you cut off our aid, everybody that we used to help has died. With no basis. I mean, so that's the whole thing. They're basically saying everybody that we didn't help has now died, and now they're saying that it was like 700,000 people. So they're again, all of this is is people trying to defend, when you talk about things like this in Washington, it's basically people trying to protect their pool of money, trying to protect their little fiefdom. So, again, this is like one of those, hey, we think this happened, and then somebody else writes an article, and then by the time it reaches NPR, it's fact, when in fact it is estimations. It is estimations with no basis in reality, like most things that come out of Washington. So why don't we take a break? We'll take your phone calls. We'll be back with more after this.
Head on over to St. George Greek Orthodox Church in Cherville for Greek Fest 2026 on July 16th through 19th. Come and enjoy the Greek experience with delicious foods like lamb, shish kebab, Greek chicken, spanakopita, and many desserts, including our delicious lurkamades. Check out our drive-through options. We offer free admission, music, dancing, and a $14,000 raffle. Located at 528 West 77th Avenue in Cherville. For more information, contact the church office at 219-322-6165.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you, and we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware of where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
6:53 here in the region. I realize we forgot traffic and weather, and I know Jim's going to come storming in if we don't do it. So let's do traffic and weather. Here in Indiana, 8094 65 Skyway Toll Road. Everything moving along well. If you see anything, you know the number, 219-845-1100. On the Illinois side, things looking pretty good. The only issue that we're running into right now is Dan Ryan's a little heavy. Say Skyway on in, usual slowdown, Dan Ryan to the circle. Other than that, 80 east and west, 294, everything looking good around the Chicago roadways. How's the weather?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 69 degrees with highs of 91 and lows of 71. It's going to be hot with plenty of sunshine. Then tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll be having highs of 94 and lows of 73. Should be mostly sunny with toasty conditions. And then Wednesday, we'll be having highs of 94 and lows of 72. Should be mostly sunny and hot.
Thank you, Lynette. As we mentioned earlier, it's going to be hot. Water your children, check on your pets, all that kind of stuff. Let's take your calls. We're here until, 8:30, whenever we feel like it. So let's take some calls. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Good morning,
Chuck,
call.
good morning.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. Hey, as the conversation relates to USAID,
Yeah.
the way you just described the function of that organization, it sounds like USAID is nothing more than Haven House, but on a global scale.
Oh, come on. Okay. Don't. Why?
I got traffic.
Go ahead. What's your traffic?
Okay. I-65 northbound to 8094 westbound. There's no traffic on any of the connectors.
No traffic. Okay, fantastic. I'm assuming
on any of the you got to add the connectors.
You got to add the connectors.
I don't know what the F connectors are, but the other chick that does the traffic, she always claims there's no traffic on any of the connectors. Whoever that chick is. I don't know.
Well, and
what's a connector?
If anybody's down at 30 and 41, let me know how traffic's looking there. But again,
on the connector.
On the connector. So that becomes an interesting question. Again, let's dial it back to where you started from.
I'm gonna hang up and listen to your response. Thanks. Bye.
He wants to hear my response. Well, no, look, we're not talking about Haven House again. I'm sorry, but we can definitely talk about USAID because again, I think this is another example. I don't know if anybody's been following. I enjoy sort of what Nick Shirley's been doing. Nick Shirley is now, and he was in New York. He was talking to different people, doing kind of what he does now. That sort of, we'll call it sort of ambush journalism, but it's also just sort of a, hey, let's go knock on some doors and see what's going on, and he's going into these places that claim they have, a retirement home that claims there's 70,000 people there, receiving benefits. So, but USAID is a perfect example of what happens when we have, as we like to say, you have programs without guardrails. And to me, this is simple. This is simple economics. This is simple government math. The bigger the program, the more fraud, waste, and abuse there's going to be if there's not guardrails. And again, nobody's saying, I'm sure USAID did great things. I'm sure they help people. But when you create sort of these layers of government, where at the end of the day, Congress or whomever, Congress approved funds, and somebody texted me earlier, don't forget to remind people, we're almost at $40 trillion now in debt that you're paying on. Your future generations are going to be paying on servicing that debt. That every dime of that money, every dime that this government spends up and above that $5 trillion is new debt that we're creating. We're bringing in $5 trillion and we're spending $7 trillion. You can sit here and say tax the rich all you want. That's still not going to cover the deficit. Tax Elon all you want. He's not going to pay $2 trillion into the system. So that becomes the question: is every dime this government spends, whether it's USAID, whether it's on road projects, whatever programs, it's new debt that's being created. So we really, at some point, we need to have a Congress that's going to step up and go, hey, look, we need to revisit where all of this money is going. And USAID is a perfect example of that. I'm sure they do good things, but also when you have these giant pools of money, we know that a lot of that money filtered down to other NGOs without a lot of oversight. That there was no guardrails in place. There was very few people that were, following up. Are these people actually delivering on the services? Especially when you start sending money overseas. It's like, hey, we're writing a grant. We're going to spend, $2 million on this thing in Afghanistan. It's like, okay, here's your money. And then we have nobody in Afghanistan making sure that money actually went to where it went. But in a lot of cases, we're working with these countries that, whether you're talking about Afghanistan or sending money to Africa or whatever, where you have countries where traditionally, there's a lot of theft and corruption. And you send $1 million to Afghanistan. At the end of the day, maybe 20% makes it to the people. The other money gets pilfered. It goes to warlords. It goes to things like that. So at the end of the day, it's like, hey, that's great that we're helping people, but in reality, we're also giving money to terrorists and things like that. So, hey, why don't we take a couple phone calls? We're going to reset. The boss wants to join us here for a little bit. Yeah, you do want to join me, or you don't? You don't have to. I'm asking you. Come sit here. You come sit next to me. Come get cozy. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, hi. As far as these liberal regs getting their shorts in a knot over USAID cuts, I wish they got this worked up over to 300,000 kids that disappeared in oblivion when the Democrats opened the border up. Not a peep about that. Whatever happened to these kids? Nobody cares.
Well,
I got to hear about some conspiracy theory about USAID now.
Well, okay, so here becomes the question. So now I'm one of those people that, since I don't watch sports or American Idol or anything like that, I spend a lot of time just kind of I'll watch random congressional hearings because I find that there's a lot of things going on in Washington that never makes it to the news. So like, for instance, we brought up MK Ultra and stuff like that, these congressional hearings that get very little attention. You mentioned the 300,000 missing kids, or even the idea that, we had Border Patrol and these agencies that were essentially, you'd have kids come across the border with a phone number or an address written on their hand. And what we found in the congressional hearings was nobody was really checking up on, hey, are we actually sending this kid to, their aunt and uncle, or are we sending it to a trafficker, right? So, I mean, that same idea is that even in the congressional hearings, even in the testimony, people from Border Patrol and things like that were saying we had no idea where these kids were going. We didn't have time to sort it out. We basically just, if you had a phone number, we'd call the number and say, hey, where are we sending this kid? And they would do it, right? So, I mean, same kind of idea with guardrails. We had no guardrails on the system. the people in the system knew that it wasn't working. But again, going back to that, I have to protect my fiefdom. I have to protect my job. I have a nice job. I have this nice pool of money. Instead of rocking the boat and saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't be just sending children to some random address. Maybe we should actually find out where they're going. Like, no, don't rock the boat. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have time for that. We don't want to start. We don't want to cause any problems. The people that are whistleblowers in a lot of cases are the ones that face the consequences. Like I was joking about Nick Shirley earlier. There, you know, he's exposing all this fraud in New York. I said there's gonna be serious consequences, not for the people committing the fraud, but for Nick Shirley, because that's what we do in this country. So I mean, again, go ahead.
I was just going to say the kids that are missing. That's a fact.
Right, absolutely, and I mean that's not a conspiracy. You can
kind of a
right.
wild dream or something like that.
There are
That's a
absolutely there was hearings and there was testimony in Congress. They talked about it. They talked about the problems that they had with keeping track of children. That's absolutely there's no conspiracy at all involved in that. You're right.
You know, the other thing, as far as this democratic love affair with radical Islam, I think the Chinese and the Russians learned a long time ago how to handle the Middle East. The Russians got their lessons in Afghanistan, but they trade with these people. They get what they need out of this area, and it benefits their country. But they do not allow radical Islamics to be immigrating into their country. They don't allow it. The West, on the other hand, Europe and the United States, we've been getting in these boondoggle wars now for God knows how long, and we destroy the cohesiveness of that area. We get the population all, we destroy their homeland, and then we import them into our country. And the more radical it seems like, the more we import. And it's like inviting a snake into your tent. What is this, like a suicide kind of thing or something? We don't like the way they conduct their lifestyle here. So what we do, we go there, we destroy the whole place, and then we import them into our country. That sounds, as far as their leadership in Washington, it's like I have absolutely no respect for the way these idiots are running this country. I don't care what party they're in.
Okay. Hey, we do have to take a break because Jim just unplugged my headphones
Okay.
and I need to go fix a few things. So it's 7:02 in the region. You're listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM, beautiful Hammond, Indiana. Let's take a break and hopefully I'll be able to hear you after this.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you. And we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
I'm Pastor Eric Boone, pastor of the Tree of Life Church here in the great city of Gary, Indiana. The Notre Dame Credit Union. Go beyond and above to make sure that we are in position to make that greater impact. Listen, this credit union is one of a kind, and I'm looking forward to the future because I know that we will continue to do greater things together, and I'm forever grateful for a credit union like this.
Visit NotreDameFCU.com.
Hey Region, I'm T, and I grew up in East Chicago, went to college in Gary, worked out of Munster, and raised my family in Crown Point. I'm Region to the core. I created Region Hot Sauce, the flavor of the region. Added to chicken, fish, pizza, eggs, and more for the perfect blend of heat and flavor. Visit RegionHotSauce.com for a complete list of locations or to order direct. Region Hot Sauce, the flavor of the region.
It's 7. You jiggle that. That was it. Don't touch anything. Okay, just slowly roll back over here and don't touch anything. Okay. 7:05 here in the region. You're listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM on a beautiful Monday morning. Let's take a quick look at traffic and weather. Traffic here in Indiana, everything looking good. 80, 94, 65, Skyway, Toll Road, even 30 and 41 looking good here in the region. On the Illinois side, the only real issue to keep an eye on, Dan Ryan's a little heavy on the back stretch. Skyway on into the Circle. Other than that, Bishop Ford still looking good in the Dan Ryan. 80 looking good east and westbound. 294, everything looking good. How about the weather?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 70 degrees with highs of 91 and lows of 71. It's going to be hot with plenty of sunshine. And tomorrow and Tuesday we'll be having highs of 94. It's going to be mostly sunny and hot. Then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 94 and lows of 72. It should be mostly sunny and hot.
Fantastic. Thank you. I got a special guest this morning.
Well, thanks for asking me in. I mean, I was just coming in to get some work done, but...
You got to go to yoga today?
No,
Okay.
no. I'm playing in the Trade Winds outing with my Laborers 41 folks. It's a kind of a tradition. And I'm just stopping by to check on things, and then I got my golf stuff on underneath this. But I'm looking forward to it. Raises a lot of good money, a lot of money for some good cause.
Make sure, remind them to bring some of those, what are those called, the squinchies? Tell them to bring some squinchies out there with them because it's going to be hot.
Yeah, it is. Well, not as hot as it's going to be later in the week. So, hey, I know that you guys are into talking about USA Aid and some of the other stuff
Matt
going
called
on.
in and it was
But, there's a bunch of stuff that happened here over the weekend.
We started, I know Colby taught you, and I agree with him. So we've been jumping back and forth. We did a local story, then we did a national story. Took a break, did a local story, did a national story. So we talked about the domestic incident in Munster. We talked about the issue that happened at the Hammer Marina over the weekend. So what else would you like to hit?
Well, I mean, I know that you guys aren't massive on the sports, but...
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about the sports.
Cincinnati Reds, they drafted
Is that a local?
Hanover
Okay, go ahead.
Central's Dylan Bowen in the 5th round of the MLB draft yesterday. He's a 6'1", 191-pound shortstop. He was the 154th overall pick. That slot holds an approximate value of $463,000. And I don't know. He's slated to go to Oklahoma State. And he was pretty good on, when we would do the games here on Heartland Sports. And, of course, he's been a good, I think he's also a football player. But it's just great news. A guy getting drafted in the 5th round coming out of the NCC. And we've been proud to put all his games, or a lot of his games on TV and on the radio over the years. Now, I don't know if he's going to take this or if he's going to go to Oklahoma State. He has been committed to Stillwater since, I think, 2024. So okay. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to go to college or he's going to sign professionally, if that's been announced. If anybody knows, call Chuck and I, 219-845-1100.
So he has the option of doing, you can't say, hey, I'll take the job, but let me go to college first. Is that an option? Or can you do a commuter college and play? I mean, I don't know how this works. Can you play baseball and get your degree through the mail or something? I mean, is that, I don't know how that works. I mean, is that something?
Yeah, you can. A lot of guys do that. I mean, especially now you can go to college online.
Right, as I say, do an online college and do both. I mean, that would seem like a good deal.
I don't know. I don't know if it's been announced. I've been following. I was looking for it, but it didn't say if he was going to go to Oklahoma State.
I guess. So what would be the advantages there to just going to college? I mean, isn't there always I guess the possibility is you get better, but there's also the risk of an injury or something like that.
Well, I mean, first of all, you can still get paid in college now.
Okay.
You get your endorsements. You could, a lot of times, some football players and basketball players, they make more money staying in college than they ever would because they might not make the pros, but, they may be getting $1 million in playing in college.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that he could potentially make $400,000 now, but he can go to college and potentially make millions more later.
Yeah, I mean, that's all of those factors have to be put into it. You're right, because do you just say, forget it, I'm going to take the money, I'm going to go, and I'm a professional baseball player, and what if that doesn't work out? You got to go back to college at 23. I mean, you could, and then start a career at 25 or 26, or do you go in and you come out with a career or with a degree and you're going into the pros?
So
a lot of times they'll do 2 years maybe, and then kind of be on their way to a degree.
Here would be my suggestion, because I find the economics of this interesting and sort of the process and the decision making. I think it would be great if we could kind of get in touch with him and check in with him every few months and just kind of say, hey, what are you doing? Why did you decide to go the direction you went in? Because I find that part of it really interesting, the decision making of, how do you decide what to do here?
Well, Sam is pretty close with Ryan Bridges and the Hanover Central people. I have a feeling that at some point he'll get an interview with him. And maybe now's not the time for him to be talking to the media until he makes
No, I'm
his
saying
decision.
once he makes a decision on the back end, it would be interesting just to kind of hear why he made that decision, what factored into it. To me, I'd find that interesting. So,
well, part of it is, and I know this isn't, your cup of tea, but you helped us start the Heartland Sports TV network, and much to your chagrin, we've become all sports. You wanted it as news talk,
right?
That didn't work, but the sports did.
But understand, a whole bunch of people in their cars just rolled their eyes in traffic when you started talking about us and streaming in Heartland. So we've talked about that issue. I get it.
My point of that is I forget what it is, but on down the line, he's got to think about his future.
Right.
But really I know what I was going to say, is that I think that people aren't realizing there's a few things people aren't realizing in the region. First of all, how hot we are right now.
Right.
Data centers, the Bears, healthcare. I mean, it's just crazy what is happening, and a lot of people are getting priced out of their homes because of that. Okay, and there's good and bad to all of that. But the baseball and the softball around here in high school is amazing right now, and I don't know why.
So one of the things that I think about when you talk about this is one of the things that we are doing that we didn't do in the past is we are sort of diversifying our economy. We're not putting it all into one steel mill or one refinery. We have this sort of diverse economy, which means if one sector has, occasionally you have sectors in the market that falter and things like that. We're not putting all of our eggs in one basket, one steel mill that everybody works at. So now we have this diverse economy that can absorb, downturns and things like that. Everything's great now. I mean, that's sort of the thing. And again, this from trading, is that when the markets are doing well, when the economy is doing well, everybody gets very short-sighted. They'll go, everything's great, everything's going to be great, and they don't think about, winter is coming kind of thing. And then out of nowhere, something can happen completely out of our control, whether it's, sort of economic turmoil, whether it's, political strife, what have you, that affects the economy. And now we are in a better position to sort of weather that storm, I think. Why don't we take some phone calls? Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Can you turn my headphone up just slightly?
You might have tripped over it.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen. Can you hear me now?
We can. Fantastic.
Great. So, Chuck, question from the chat.
Yeah.
Everyone's wanting to know who your favorite baseball draftee is.
Who? My old neighbor from East Chicago. Who is that? Was it Kenny Lofton? Is that Kenny was from East Chicago? I forget. He unplugged my headphones again. I'm just going to, sorry, Mott, if you're talking, I can't hear you. Just don't touch it.
No worries.
Again. Who is from East Chicago? Is that Kenny Lofton?
Kenny Lofton, Pete Turkovich?
No, Kenny Lofton. Like his grandmother lived around the corner from my grandmother. So, and then Glenn Robinson, I was a big fan of him. I used to wear his jersey in high school when he came out of Gary. And again, his son, I think, lived right around the corner from my parents in Dyer or Cherville, whatever it was. So if you're asking me about the current class, no idea. But if you're asking me historically, Kenny Lofton, because he was our neighbor. How about you, Mon?
I don't have an opinion. I am definitely not a sports guy here, but I did want to ask about a local story, and then I had a comment about the USAID. Like, I haven't heard word one about the state trooper that was shot over in LaPorte, and I was just wondering, does anybody know how he's doing? Did he survive? I don't know anything about it. Do you guys know?
Yeah, I know there was a press conference about it. We should pull that up. We can talk about that because you're right. That is an important story that we were following last week, and I was actually just...
Well, here's what I got, and thanks a lot to the Times. They did the LaPorte County Sheriff's Deputy John Samuelson continues to undergo several hours of therapy 5 to 6 days a week at an intensive inpatient rehabilitation center. Samuelson was left in critical condition after being shot 3 times inside Franciscan Health Michigan City Hospital by a man he reportedly had gone out of his way to assist.
So essentially, he finds this guy. I think the guy was shot when he found him, right? So he finds this guy, takes him to the hospital, and they shoot him.
I think we're talking about two separate things.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jim, you're talking about one thing. There's another incident. Yeah,
this guy got shot. He was taken to Michigan City, and then they took him to South Bend because he was in critical condition. And I haven't heard anything about that after. This happened like Friday, I believe.
Okay, so.
Did you just get turned off?
Yeah, no, I'm. So go jiggle the cables again.
I know.
Is that jiggle your side? Just
I don't know what you guys tried to put together there, but it does.
Okay,
work.
why don't you here? Do you want to read? This is what he's talking about. Is that
Go
the one
ahead,
you're talking?
you two.
Okay. So, and I apologize, Mon, if you're talking. We're gonna jiggle some cables and maybe if you spilled coffee. There it goes. There it goes. Don't touch. Don't touch. That's it. It's work. Oh, you touched again. Stop touching. Stop.
You
hang
jiggle
on.
it. Jiggle
he
it.
is jiggling it, but it's working and he stopped.
Jiggle it.
Okay, jiggle it again.
Just a little bit.
Jiggle it a little bit. You're right. That's good advice. Jiggle it a little bit. It was working for a second. Why don't you swap the plug? There we go. Oh, don't touch. Don't touch. Don't touch. Leave it alone. I got it. I got it. Stop. 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 Don't touch. Okay.
I can't hear anything. But is anybody there?
Why don't you switch here?
No, I can hear.
I can hear. You can hear. Okay, Mont,
Right,
are you
so
there?
we're good. Hey,
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, I don't know what they put tried to fix something.
Yeah, that was just
okay. So this is a different incident that Mott is talking about. So there was a man accused of shooting an Indiana State trooper
all right. Yeah, that
multiple
is
times
different.
Friday near Michigan City. He was found dead. So according to police, the incident began at 5:30 a.m. Central when troopers responded to I-94 to assist in Barron County, Michigan. There was a pursuit of a stolen vehicle that crossed into Indiana. During the pursuit, police said that the suspect was 54-year-old Kevin Myers. Laporte fired multiple rounds and pointed the weapon at pursuing officers. The chase continued off of I-94, where he eluded capture. So essentially, they're chasing this guy. He gets off of the highway, and at some point, he shoots the officer, and then he is shot himself.
And I think he died.
The suspect
they
did
found
die.
him dead. And
Yeah. So there was questions about whether he was shot by police or took his own life, and I know that there was a press conference about that, and they're still kind of investigating that. But police said that Sergeant Heflin's a 12-year veteran of the state police, also served in the Marine Corps. After receiving initial treatment at Franciscan, he was transferred to South Bend, where he underwent successful surgery and is currently in stable condition. So again, the good news is the troopers' injuries were relatively minor. But again, scary situation, and you know that comes along with the dangers of that work, that line of work, right? I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
You're chasing a stolen car, and the guy just starts shooting at you. And
hey, Mont, how you doing, man?
Yeah, we want to talk about other stuff. Go ahead. What else is going on? You
Dude,
wanna talk USA?
I'm doing phenomenal, man. I've lost about 30 pounds since I probably last saw you, and put on a little bit more muscle with working out and stuff. So I'm feeling great, man. Absolutely great. Loving retirement. I don't miss work at all, man. You'll probably enjoy it too once you actually quit that.
And
I just can't. That's not me, man.
And
I
this
just
is
don't have
this
it.
is the part where Jim offers you a podcast.
There you go. No.
Oh, we already talked about it, Chuck.
Oh,
we
I'm
already
sure you
talked
did.
about it.
It's just a podcast. You can't come on the FCC regulated radio station, but you can do a podcast anytime you'd like.
Yeah, Mont would be better on the streaming and the podcast rather than live FCC.
I dropped too many F-bombs, Chuck.
Yeah, we can't afford that.
Hey, Mont, did you notice that Emily Edwards is advertising here? Did you see that?
I actually texted her last week when I heard the ad.
I would love to have her on the radio soon. She's a great local success story, doing great things. I've met her a couple times, but yeah, I mean, again, one of those great region stories that I'm always talking about that we need to tell.
You know, Mont, it's kind of a bittersweet story, Emily Edwards is, because Mont and I and others were part of kind of the VC entrepreneurship community and tried to build that here locally. And for her to make it here is almost impossible. It's almost as if there's kind of an anti-VC. They think you're some sort of a swindler or something. And she has been able to cut through all of the noise, and she has been able to make her spreads, gluten-free spreads, get them into big stores, and she is an example of somebody who persevered despite all of the odds against her. Is that fairly
Well, not
accurate?
only that, Jim, but she's also risen in the sort of the Republican conservative community in the state of Indiana because of her entrepreneurship. She's on high level state committees for Republican candidates and stuff now. So I mean, good for her. She's learned a lot, and I think, I always say, like, if you start a business, win or lose, you're going to get something out of it, some sort of soft skills out of it. So
let's just mention
good for her.
Real quick. So she has Paradise Packs, which you can now find at Strack and Van Til's.
Straps.
All kinds of flavor. So strawberry, chocolate, caramel, sea salt, vanilla.
Salted caramel.
That sounds amazing. Can't wait to try that. So they have these Paradise Packs. We've got to go check those out.
So she started, Mont knows the whole story, and she and I have gone together. I was just a radio person, and she was a person that had this recipe for spreads on a bagel or something. And Mont, who's on the phone now, kind of said, hey, both of you guys have pretty good ideas. And now here we are with Sports Network and Podcast Network and all that. And part of that, Mont, is not just Chuck whispering in our ear about a streaming video network, but your work in pushing people that we would never really have thought that we could do that, Emily or me. Someone's got to tell you. And Mont here, who is on the phone, was on Shark Tank, and you could go look it up and watch the old Shark Tank episode. And he brought that to Purdue. And without your involvement, man, we would have never done any of this stuff. You were you would bug me every day. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And it got kind of old, but after a while, I think I did some things just to get you off my back.
That sometimes you got to be the what is that? There's a fine line between pest and persistence, and I think I rode that line pretty hard.
Hey, yes. Can I digress for a second? Then we got to take a break because I want to throw something out, and I want both of you guys to chime in on this. So, one of the things that I've been seeing a lot, and we talked about this at length on the radio over the last few years, was sort of this idea that as a country, we were starting to lose sort of a few years ago we had fewer and fewer people starting new businesses. During COVID, we had a little bit of a resurgence, but one of the things that I always see now, there's so many people on sort of social media, on the internet, they spend their lives with everything, it's Elon's fault that I'm not, Elon's fault that all these things, everything's Elon's fault. Everything's Jeff Bezos's fault. I'm having trouble. I'm having financial issues because of Elon. And I keep telling these people, I said, any one of you could come up with an idea, take some of that energy, come up with an idea and do something. Even these people that complain about big business, like, okay, well, start your own business, do your own thing. What I really see, though, is that these future generations coming up behind us, it seems like they're losing sort of this entrepreneurial spirit, this idea that, hey, I can go do something. They've basically had it ingrained in their mind, like, hey, go to college, go work for somebody else. And I always say, you're never going to be successful. You're never going to be wealthy punching somebody else's clock. You need to go out, and if you're complaining about somebody, go do it yourself. Go be the next Elon instead of complaining about how Elon ruined your life. And a lot of people seem to have lost that entrepreneurial spirit. And I wonder how we bring that back.
So my opinion would be almost the opposite of what you're seeing, Chuck. I see, especially Gen Z, I see like this stuff going on with the Innovate Within, which is the state high school pitch competition. I've seen so many amazing high school age like entrepreneurs pitching some pretty amazing stuff. I mean, we just had a woman who pitched a Band-Aid that changed colors if there was an infection detected out of Munster High School, and she's got a full ride scholarship down in North Carolina now because of it. she's just an example of it. But, the thing, I wanted to circle back to USAID. I think that there is more like entrepreneurship activity going on with the Gen Z than ever, because they see that this 9-to-5 slave wage mentality doesn't work. They're not getting these good paying jobs. I mean, I say it all the time. I mean, our universities are training some of the best baristas and burrito makers in the region.
Okay. But there's two paths here, Mott. No, here, and I want to interrupt because I want to say there's two paths. There are people that you've met, and I agree, you're right. There are a lot of entrepreneurial. There's a lot of people. I always talk about the hustle. There's a lot of people I meet out in the world. They have their hustles. They're making plates. They're doing side jobs. There's a lot of people that have the hustle. But on the other side, there's also people that are like, wait, I need to work 40 hours. There's also the Mamdanis of the world. They're like, wait, we need to work 40 hours a week. Maybe we should only work 4 days a week. Maybe you should pay me a full salary and I'm only going to work 30 or 32 hours a week. You know what I mean? Like you're right.
Or
go ahead.
Take the example of the best thing I ever heard was like someone who goes to college at Harvard, for instance. They're like, I'm not going to work for someone else. I'm looking to create my own company and make my own job. I like that spirit better than anything else.
No, absolutely.
And I think that's what this generation is pragmatic enough to realize that they have to do that.
No, look, I hope you're right. I mean, because again, at the end of the day, it's that innovation, it's that small business, it's creating new ideas.
Chuck, are you familiar with the American system? I mean, it's called the American system. It was implemented by Alexander Hamilton. Trump is in the midst of trying to revive that right now. You hear all these stories about how USAID and cutting off the USAID funds has killed all these people. I'm not sure exactly how, having a DEI opera musical in Ireland is going to kill people. Not paying for transgender opera in Colombia, or $20 million for a new Sesame Street program in Iraq is going to kill people. It just seems so bizarre to me that these people keep running out these narrative stories. And I almost remember, there's an old movie trope about, sending the squad member out to put the Bangalore mine underneath a wall or underneath some sort of obstruction. And one after another, these squad members get shot and killed. And, oh, man, you got to send the next one out so we get this done. And it just reminds me of all these celebrities who go out there and, talk bad about about MAGA or Trump or his administration, or now these fake media people just, amplifying these bullshit stories.
Okay.
All right.
And it
Thanks
just
a lot,
one
buddy.
after another.
So you got to go. But I mean, again, to his, we left him on too long. You got to keep him on a short leash, 2 minutes, and kick him off. But
Take a short break.
We'll take a break. We'll be back with more after this.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you, and we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware of where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Enjoy the taste of summer at the Farmers Market at Fox Point. Every Tuesday from 9 to 1, shop locally grown fresh produce, delicious baked goods, artisanal treats, and local culinary creations. Just minutes from I-8094, the Farmers Market at Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is a perfect spot to hear acoustic musicians, stretch with morning yoga, and enjoy community fun throughout the season. To see all vendors and entertainment, visit foxpoint.org. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
Hey, it's 7:30 here in the region. Let's take a quick look at traffic and weather. Traffic here in Indiana looking fantastic. 8094, 65, Skyway, and the toll road looking just absolutely fabulous. If you see anything, even 30 and 41 doing well this morning. But if you see anything, you give us a call, 219-845-1100. The only real trouble spot right now is the Dan Ryan on in. It's getting heavy, basically Skyway on into the circle. But other than that, Bishop Ford into the Dan Ryan looking pretty light. 80 east and westbound looking good. 294 out to the airport's looking good. So other than the Dan Ryan on into the circle, everything else looking fantastic. How's the weather?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 71 degrees with highs of 91 and lows of 71. It's going to be hot with plenty of sunshine today. And then tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll be having highs of 94 and lows of 73 with mostly sunny and toasty conditions. Then Wednesday, we'll be having highs of 94 and lows of 72. Should be mostly sunny and hot.
Okay. Dylan Bowen drafted in the 5th round out of Hanover Central. Congratulations to the Bowen family. Of course, Drake Bowen went to Andrean, didn't go to Hanover Central, and he is the middle linebacker at Notre Dame right now. Also, there was one dead over the weekend out at the Hammond Marina. Somebody hit basically a submerged break wall, or didn't see a break wall. A number of people went into the water. One person did not come up. They do not have a name on that domestic incident in Munster.
Yep. So we had a domestic incident Saturday night where allegedly a man shot his wife or ex-wife, was taken into custody. The regional SWAT team came out, negotiated, and brought him into custody without incident. And I assume he will be facing charges later today.
Yeah, yes. And I have looked everywhere, and they have not said the man's name, so I don't want you to do that.
No, I would not. I don't know his name, but yes.
I think I know who it is, but I don't. Well, I haven't seen. I don't like to do that. I don't know why. And there are special rules regarding domestic incidents, and let's just leave it at that.
Right.
But it was in Munster, and allegedly a guy shot his wife in the face, and that's it. That's all we really know right now until some charges are filed later today.
Yeah, so we'll have more on that probably the next day or two.
Yeah, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Who is this guy? Can you play that?
You can't see it.
Well, we can hear it. Don't worry about it. You can play it on your phone.
Look behind you.
All right, there it is. All right.
It's 4, I think. Pull up.
Yeah, go ahead. Now, data centers in Munster.
Data center coming to Northwest Indiana. Let's talk about the Kenmara project, a 59-acre data center development proposed for Munster. For those who need catching up, big tech companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon have been racing to build AI data centers all throughout Northwest Indiana. Thanks to documentation by the Facebook group Munster Civic Watch and countless others, this technology park is starting to look more like a data center. This development is being led by Saxon Partners, a Massachusetts-based company going under the name Spin Munster LLC. The project consists of 3 separate buildings, all placed on the old Lansing Country Club right on the Indiana-Illinois border. When combined, these separate buildings total about 48 acres, which is about the same land footprint as 40 football fields or Munster's Community Hospital. This project, just like the one in Hobart, Wheatfield, Michigan City, and many others, is being backed by our public utility provider, NIPSCO. And this project is poised to use about 400 megawatts of...
So let's just, real quick, those opinions are all of his own. So
That's I don't know who that guy is.
Does he have a name on, is that like a Twitter? Is
I don't know. I don't know anything, but it was sent to me.
Okay.
And so... Evidently, there is a planning commission meeting about this tomorrow,
right,
in Munster, according to this video,
right,
and that it is behind the old Simmons plant,
right,
and you're talking 40 football fields worth of it.
Which, and like Kuziak was on Friday, and he basically said it's a spot that most of you don't even know exists, and how many people would affect, and things like that.
So part of the reason, I mean, obviously I've lived in Munster almost all my life, and I've got, a couple dozen relatives, and we're pretty heavily invested. Our kids, Kuziak and our kids both just bought houses there. He's got 2 kids who bought. I mean, we're invested, and probably should pay more attention, but there's one thing I do want to bring up about this, and this is only for a very select audience, in that when I was in 5th grade, we had a science teacher, kind of a hippie dude, called Mr. Kroll. His dad was actually, I think, worked for St. Tom or whatever, and he came back and long hair, and he was a big science guy, but he was an environmentalist. And we had to go in 5th grade, put our galoshes on, and go through that swamp behind the old Simmons plant looking for some specific kind of butterfly. And then they had actually, believe it or not, because there was so much sand, there was this lizard that lived back there that could somehow live behind the Simmons plant. I don't know what it was, but all I can think of is Mr. Kroll, this long-haired, blonde-haired hippie dude, just loved this area behind the Simmons plant, which they now want to make into a technology park, which this guy on the internet, whom I don't know who it is, says is more like a data center. And the irony in the cycle of life here is just,
so
I don't know what to make of it.
Is there, and I'm seeing more of this, is there sort of, again, I used the example earlier, this idea of always creating boogeyman. Are data centers the new boogeyman? And so I'll use the example. I saw a meme last week where somebody had a meme of like this data center. It was really scary looking. It had like a cooling tower and had a picture of like toxic fumes coming out of the cooling tower. And somebody points out, I said, that's just steam, right? That's just steam coming out. It's just water vapor. There's no poisons. It's funny to me as somebody who grew up, next to an actual toxic chemical factory, grew up in the region, grew up in East Chicago, surrounded by actual chemical factories, the mill, the refinery, all. So then now you're making a boogeyman out of a data center, which again, at the end of the day, as an engineer, and again, I'm downplaying this a little bit, but to me, a data center is really no different than like a hospital. It's the same from an engineering perspective. It's a big building with lots of electricity. You need to keep it cool, et cetera, et cetera. A hospital has a lot of human bodies. A data center has a lot of computer bodies. I mean, again, to me, from an engineering perspective, there's no difference between like a hospital, but the difference is I've actually worked in a data center. I've built facilities inside of a data center. I've been inside them. I know it's basically just a dark, empty room full of computers. It's not that much different. A compartmentalized building full of computer racks. It's not much different than a hospital in that perspective, to me.
So there's 2 things that, I'm trying to get my hands around this, and I do not envy Hofferth, Schinken, Peterson, Nellums in having to have ultimately decide this. I think Baker's on the plan commission, or I'm not really sure who makes this ultimate decision, but someone's got to decide it. And here, to me, just looking from the outside, I'm not on the air anymore. I don't follow these. My wife's like, God, you don't know anything going on anymore. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's great.
It is great.
It's great.
But wasn't the system created to kind of make local municipalities kind of desperate?
Well, think about
that's what it was set up to be. Like, you don't have any money, and we're going to keep cutting and cutting on you and cutting on your schools. And if you don't do a referendum, you could have crappy schools. And it just keeps going lower and lower. You pay money in, and then the state says, you know what, we're going to give you less and less back. And then eventually these towns and cities get a little bit desperate.
Right. So, but there's 2 points here, but I want to, that's an important point, but I want to hit the other one first, because there's a unique irony here with you and I sitting here, because for years you came on these airwaves and what were you talking about? Why don't we have all of those big buildings along 80, 94 and 6? Why don't we have all of this development like they have out in, Oak Brook or whatever? And now we're not getting quite the development you were asking for, but we're getting these developments, and now the communities are pushing back on it, right? So we're getting the development you were asking for.
I
So
never asked for a data center.
You asked for development. You asked for big buildings along 8094.
And they've happened, some of them.
But they're happening. But I'm saying, you kept saying, where's our development? And now that we're starting to get, the data center is a small part of this campus. Just like when you drive up and down 65, like every time I drive down 65 now, I see this new big building being built somewhere, these big storage facilities, logistics places. So we're bringing in this development. I was just down in Lowell where the John Deere factory, the John Deere plant or whatever facility is going. There's all this development happening, but there's certain kinds of development that we're pushing back against. So there's a sort of irony about you and I. You were asking for development here in the region, and now there are people pushing back on some of it, the data center specifically. But going back to your point, and these guys, the guys talked about this at length on Friday. You're right. There's this idea that you have local communities being starved for revenue. Bob was on there talking about we need money to take care of the roads and build parks. You want parks, you want good roads, but I don't have the money to do it. But there's a unique irony in the idea. You mentioned the Munster Council, that in the process, the Munster Council makes a decision, says we need the revenue. We need the revenue to keep the town growing. But there's a strange irony, because what we're seeing across the country is that these councils that approve data centers are losing elections. So they're setting up their community for financial
That's
success.
A secondary issue.
Well, but I'm
this.
saying, but I get
the
it.
issue has to decide on whether Munster wants to put in a data center or not.
Right.
Whether the next council or whatever, to me, that's a non-issue.
It is, because what if you make the responsible decision to help your community financially, and then you lose the election in the process, and somebody else comes in and reaps the benefits of your tough decision?
Well, I mean, you went to college. When I went to college, the whole thing was like the case study.
Sure.
And then, like, my wife would have, and your wife, our wives both went to law school.
Law school, right.
And then once in a while, my wife's like, I got to argue this case. I'll be on this side. And I'll be like, all right, I'll help you out. All right, what do you want me to do? The other side? Okay. And I'd have to come up with arguments on one side. And then she goes, all right, now I'm the other side and you're this side, right? So you know this. Like, when you're having an argument with your wife, who's a lawyer, I'm guessing that you've had the same thing, where you realize that the wife is actually arguing both sides of the story, even your side, just because she wants you to make sure you have a good side to your argument. But this is such a monumental case study that could affect the town of Munster for generations to come, and it's playing out right now in evidently a plan commission meeting tomorrow. But if you add them all up, there's a lot of unknowns, right? And then there is a lot of false information, and there's a lot of people getting all excited about things that they don't know are going to happen either, right? Like, you don't know the long-term effects of having a data center or taking all that land and building something that may be obsolete in 5 years, or there may be noise pollution that becomes a problem for kids' ears or something. We don't know the long-term effects of it, but at the same time, there isn't information that there really is a long-term effect.
One of my first times coming on these airwaves, 20 plus years ago, do you remember Myra Rosenblum?
Oh, yes.
So she
would call.
So she would actually, at one point, probably before you owned the station, she bought time. So she bought time.
But then she called me as
did she?
I was in, the beginning.
So I actually helped Myra start her show. And one of the big topics that we were talking about at the time was they wanted, as cell towers were proliferating, they wanted to put up a cell tower like in Munster. Like, if you go to the theater at the center, CVPA, there's a big cell tower right there, right next to the schools. And so one of the questions that we had back then, going back to Haluska and things like that, they were on the council. We had discussions and debates with that council, was, should we be putting cell towers? There was studies that said that cell towers shouldn't be too close to schools because there was sort of this radiation hotspot. So the idea was, hey, if you're going to put in cell towers, don't put them within X number of feet of a school. So there was the same debate back then about, hey, we need cell towers. You need cell towers in your community, but where should we put them? Again, boogeyman. So we had protests right there on Ridge Road. People were protesting the cell tower, and both sides had valid points, but it was discussed, it was debated. Ultimately, the cell towers went there on the water tower. They're right next to the middle school and the high school, and that's what happened. But again, at least the debate was had. At least the discussion was had. Does it make sense to put cell towers? Is there a hot spot? Does it make sense?
So there are a number of issues surrounding this, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I know Dave Zakis listens, and he was in my 5th grade class, and he's saying the same thing. Mr. Kroll is rolling in his grave, or anybody who went to St. Tom in that period, he loved that area. And I don't know how many times I had to slosh through behind Pepsi and the Simmons plant looking for this weird butterfly, and we found it. It's kind of a weird blue and yellow striped butterfly. But there's 2 more issues that kind of surround this. One, that guy in his video, whoever that is, some young guy that knows how to use this stuff pretty good, social media, NIPSCO.
Mm-hmm.
Very quiet. Very quiet. Try to stay out of it. They don't do anything here even, they're just like quiet, and this guy says, oh, they're behind a lot of wanting to make this happen because then there's a bigger demand for power.
Right.
And they could make more money by basically splitting into 2 companies.
The 2 divisions,
Yeah,
right. They have
the 2 divisions. Right. And I don't know what their role is. I know that it's odd to me that they've gone quiet on just about everything. They won't even, sponsor high school sports.
But so to get to it, I mean, look at
minorly.
So NIPSCO and power and utility companies are migrating away from. As you know, there was a big debate. We mentioned it earlier on the air about they want to shut down their plants, and the federal government's intervening, telling them you can't shut down your coal plant. So the utilities are becoming more brokers and less generators, right? So you have private companies generating, whether it's coal, windmills, solar, whatever. So NIPSCO is essentially becoming a broker. It's just like if you're running a store, I buy a product at a certain, so they're buying energy on the market and they're selling it for more than they paid for it, right? Easy.
What does that have to do with anything I'm talking about?
Because the more customers they have, the more money they make selling them energy, right?
That's easy.
So I mean, again, that's not. But the kid talks about it like it's a conspiracy. Yes, NIPSCO wants more customers, and if a big customer is coming to the area, NIPSCO is going to say, "Hey, yeah, we'll help you become a customer of ours." Why? That's not a conspiracy. That's just the way business works. They want another big customer.
I don't know. I don't know if that guy's saying it's a conspiracy or not. I'm certainly not saying it's a conspiracy, but we are not speaking about NIPSCO's role in this at all. It's all about data centers this, data centers that, and what it's going to do to your environment. But then you also have the idea of, can we provide enough power to all of these data centers, and what is NIPSCO's role in trying to get them approved, if any? I don't know as if I've seen anything on that. And this was the first time I saw that.
No, I mean,
and I had thought that before because I could see it. I'm probably going to go to the Tradewinds outing today, and there'll be all the NIPSCO will have a foursome, and I'll just, what is their role in all of this? And it's always about money and who is trying to get things through to make more money and who has the power to get things through. I don't know any of that on this, and nor do I care. I just want to know that there's a discussion going on about it. But the third thing is way more interesting.
Okay.
Is what's going on in Munster politically with Jonathan Peterson and his gang, and then a number of people leaving the town of Munster in kind of a huff.
Right. Well, I did that before. It was cool, to be fair. I did that a long time ago, leaving in a huff. So, come on. You remember those phone calls? Like, we'll help you pack. I'm going. You remember those phone calls? Like, Chuck, we'll help you pack.
I drive by your house, your old house, every day. I'm like, God, I wish Chuck still lived there. Every once in a while, I need something lifted, and I'm like, who could I get to help me lift this?
Send Luke. Send Luke over. But yeah, but again, I mean, same idea. It's like I didn't like the direction that things were going in, and I decided to try something different. I'm glad I did.
What didn't you like?
I didn't like, we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the air. I called it dumbass ideas pervading mindsets. So again, I know you're going to laugh, but even this idea.
I'm not laughing.
I'm saying even once people started talking about let's turn Ridge Road into a bike trail, I was like, okay, I'm out. You know what? Because this is dumbass ideas that are going to eventually make traffic worse. When you're focusing on things like bike trails and not focusing on let's fix the traffic, and at the same time there's a water main break every day. Going back to focus on infrastructure. If there's time, deal with the bike trails. But that was the old council, and that was their idea was, hey, let's do these. Let's focus on art. Let's focus on bike trails, not the water mains that are breaking.
Wasn't that because they had $17 million they had to spend?
Well, again, fix the roads. Think of ways, even like the 45th Avenue project. It was, hey, eventually Calumet Avenue is going to become an underpass to fix traffic, and then halfway through they said, never mind.
I think you're mixing apples and oranges. If I remember correctly, and I do, and I did a lot of...
Okay, I get where you're going with that.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that money was earmarked for Ridge Road. They had to spend it that way. They had certain federal guidelines they had to go by. It wasn't like you could just go, oh, hey, we're just going to fix this road and that road.
But the government didn't just give them that money. They had to come up with the dumbass idea first to get it funded. So somebody came out and said, hey, we got this dumbass idea to turn Ridge Road into a bike trail. And of course, the dumbass government said, here's $17 million. Not, hey, we need more money to fix the existing roads, make the existing roads flow better, fix the water mains. No, we have dumbass ideas for art and bike trails. Here's some money. No, I agree with you, but I'm saying once those ideas start pervading the mindset of your community, that's fine. If that's a direction you want to go in, then do that. At the end of the day, I need to get to work. The bike trails, that's cool that you have free time to ride your bike. I don't, and I need to get to work, and I'd rather not spend 45 minutes trying to get through 3 intersections. Why don't we take a break and we'll talk about more. We'll be back for a few more minutes after this.
Come to Bands, Bikes, and Brews on Saturday, July 18th at Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois. A celebration of rock, motorcycles, and cold brews explodes at 3 p.m. with live music from Grindstone, Fatal Order, and Count 77. Rock out with headliner LA Guns. Rev up with special guest and bike judge Danny the Count Coker from the History Channel's Counting Cars. Admission is just $20. For tickets or to register your bike, visit foxpoint.org. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you, and we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware of where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
7:53 here in the region. Chuck Pullen, my very special guest and special friend, Jim Diedlow, joining me this morning because Bob's on his way to Indianapolis for a meeting that could have been
Thanks,
could have been an email. Yeah, so
could have been. He showed us how to do Riverside, and now he's driving all over the state doing 10-minute
He could
meetings.
be that guy that
he could be doing on Riverside.
Yeah, he could Riverside in his car. We could set up a couple GoPros, and there you go. Do we have any phone calls? We've bored everybody. They don't like. They're tired of talking about data centers, but to people that is affecting, it's an important topic. I agree. What else did you want to hit?
We need to do traffic.
We don't though. There's no okay. Traffic. There's traffic on the Bishop Ford's a little slow into the Dan Ryan on in, heavy traffic to the circle. That's it. How's the weather?
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at, hold on, give me a second. Today we're at 74 degrees with highs of 91 and lows of 71. It's going to be sunny and toasty conditions today. Then tomorrow on Tuesday we'll be having highs of 94 and lows of 73. It's going to be mostly sunny. Then Wednesday we'll be having highs of 94 and lows of 72. It should be mostly sunny and hot.
Fantastic.
So, I did want to extend that because so in Indianapolis, what they're doing is they are proposing a data center moratorium.
Right.
After all of the outcry, neighbors who have persistently demanded a pause on new data centers in Indianapolis could soon get their wish. They will oppose them. Certainly, the president, Maggie Lewis, will propose a moratorium on the approval of new data centers today.
So let's go back to history being cyclical. I've been watching. Do you ever see that series about like the men that built America? They talked about Carnegie and Rockefeller and things like that. It's a very, it's amazing series, and it always reminds me of the region because I think about the fact that if it wasn't for Carnegie and Rockefeller, I wouldn't be here. A lot of us listening right now probably wouldn't be here. My grandparents came here, my grandfathers came here, one to work at the refinery, one to work at the mill, one came all the way from Italy to work here in North. And I think about the fact that a lot of us wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for those two men, right? Imagine if there would have been outcry about building the refinery and the steel mill here. I mean, luckily they were here first, but I mean, imagine if that didn't happen. Imagine if the region didn't have that development, how different history would have been. And I think the same thing about the data centers. I think about this idea that, again, I understand it. I understand that you're worried. What's it going to look like if the data center is my neighbor? What's it going to sound like? I get it. But also when you look at it from the lens of history, what's going to happen to these communities that say, we don't want data centers, we don't want progress? People are just going to skip over them. And so we can agree, you and I talked about everything going cloud-based. Everything that you do here is AI, which requires computing, cloud-based infrastructure, cloud-based programs. We need data centers. The days of us having a big rack in the back of your building full of computers are over. The days of you and I building racks of stuff, everything's on the cloud now because we have the bandwidth to do it. Is it a mistake? Would it stifle growth in this country if we just say, hey, moratorium on no data centers, that's it, they're all going to set up in China or India or something like that? How would that affect our future? That's my big question.
That's a great question. But in your question is one word that is very kind of specific to the Calumet region: growth. What kind of growth? Why are we having so much growth? What are the factors that contributed to it? And then where are we going to be in 10 or 12 years by making decisions right now? Because there is growth, massive traffic, awful traffic. I drove to Crown Point the other day to pick up the mother-in-law and whatever, take her somewhere, and I could not believe how long it took me. 43 minutes to get there from here to the senior living, and I was like, 43 minutes, and every light, and then those 2-lane roads where there's people going both. I'm like, who planned this?
Right.
I mean, how do you possibly do that?
If only we had a regional planning commission to plan. If only we had somebody that focused on regional planning instead of more bike bridges. But again, that's cool. Bike bridges are great. Focus on me being able to get somewhere without taking an hour. Think about how that affects people.
So look at, you brought up, like, yes, I have been for a long time, said, hey, why aren't we getting glass buildings along the highway? I mean, I was saying that 15 years ago. Why is that not happening here? What can we do to change it? Well, what's one of the main things that provided a lot of topics for us on the radio over the years that could have, in a circuitous way, contributed to the development that's going on right now? And I bet you don't have the answer in your head.
I don't. But what I do know is that we have a bunch of calls on hold, and we need to do our round robin. Go ahead, answer the question.
We sat here, you and me, 15 years ago.
Right.
And I remember talking and saying, it becomes pretty obvious that our reputation and our history of corruption precludes development that goes on in other areas that make it easier to do the development.
Right.
We are inefficient. and we were corrupt for a long time.
Right.
We've gotten a little bit more efficient, but 19 overlapping municipal taxing jurisdictions doesn't help. And we have completely gone hard at corruption, right? So if you have less of both of those, is that contributing to what's happening right now?
Right, but also being imagine if every time somebody wanted to build here, there was massive protest. Eventually, like remember,
right. I agree.
I always talk about the headline in Griffith, the town of no. You know what I mean? We start getting that reputation of it's too hard to do business in Lake County because they'll say no to everything and they'll try to hit you up for bribes. Why don't we power through some calls, and then you've got Fox Point coming in here in a few minutes. So good morning, caller on the air. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
So I just want to chime in real quickly because I'm sitting in front of Menards to grab some material. I heard the tape that you played. So what was the gist of what the individual was saying, that businesses that come into town are going to have an adverse effect possibly towards our life? We know that.
Right. We grew up with that. Yes, we know that.
I mean, hello, Lucy. So the question becomes, what do you do in the planning? If you're I'm not saying I'm in favor of it, but I'm saying that first of all, we're all looking for additional money to fund our government. And so you have to pick a business. 1%, you're in deficit spending if all you have is residential. For every dollar that you spend on residential, it costs $1.50. Okay? For every resident that's 1%, it costs $1.50. So you have to make that up by bringing in either rentals or businesses. What type of business do you want to bring in? Well, if I was bringing in a data center, since we live next to 8094 next to the train, I'd probably put an 8-foot berm around the whole place. Maybe some sound panels around it.
Right.
But
easy.
It's worth the conversation if someone's telling you they're going to give you $100 million.
Right.
It would be a dereliction of duty as an elected official not to hear it out.
Hey, real quick, it is hang on. It is 8:01 in the region. You're listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM in beautiful Hammond, Indiana. But Dave, here's the thing. No matter how bad data centers are, I don't think anybody in Munster is ever going to get woken up at 3 a.m. by a squad car driving down their street saying you need to evacuate now. Do you know what I mean? Like you and I talked about this a few weeks ago. We've lived through that here in the region. Like as bad as you think a data center is, I don't think that that's ever going to happen. You know what I mean? Like we've lived through worse.
We were woken up at 1:30 and 3 o'clock in Roxana in the 90s because of emissions that were from Roan Palanque, which is, I don't know what it's called now. It used to be Stauffer.
It was Stauffer at the time, I think. Yeah.
And the terrible thing, and as dramatic as it sounds, both Jim's mother and my mother both died of cancer, probably which would have been environmental cancer from growing up in East Chicago and Hammond.
So did my mother.
Okay?
And
so did many other people that worked in the mill. It is not that bad, but if not for my good friends of Munster, if you're not for this particular economic development, what are you going to do to make ends meet? Because the money coming in is less than what you're spending. So as an elected official running for office next year for all those people, if you don't want a data center, what are you going to bring in to pay the bills? And if not, what are you cutting? And if you are going to add money, then are you in favor of a Munster option tax? Because that's the reality of it. So good show, guys.
Hey, Cruz, I have one question for you.
We got to go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We got a guest waiting.
Go ahead. What do you need?
Do you remember Mr. Kroll? Remember?
I remember Mr. Kroll very well. I remember his mother, who used to give me red checks, because if you remember, if you didn't have enough money, they gave you credit. And then when we did get money, we paid all the red checks off. But Mrs. Kroll, she also asked you if you wanted chocolate milk or regular milk or white milk. And she was there forever, and Mr. Kroll was a fifth grade teacher. And I also remember Mr. Porter as a science teacher.
Go back to Mr. Kroll. Wait a second. Mr. Kroll, do you remember how much he was into the butterflies behind the Simmons plant where they want to put this data center?
Yeah,
I just think it's
But
odd.
here's the deal. So you used to go to the Brickyard. So the Brickyard used to be an ecological place where you could fish, and there used to be Munster Brickyard, and then next to it was Munster Steel. So how did all of that go forward? And then I even used to dump shingles for Thomas Roofing where into the landfill, which is now Centennial Park, which is right next to Twin Creek, and right next to Cobblestones where you live, where people are paying $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for homes. So how does that all exist together, Jimmy?
Okay.
I don't know, man.
It's
kind of odd.
We've got to take that.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, Dave. Next call. Good morning, caller on here.
Mr. Kroll.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? It's Marine
Good.
Pete.
How are you?
Marine Pete.
Good.
How you been, man?
Calm down. You're like a Progressive commercial, the guy waiting in the dentist's office that want to talk to everybody. Golly.
My wife says I'm that guy all the time when we're on vacation. Hey, hey, I'm just nice. But anyways, go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
Chuck, I think there needs to be more education. You said that data centers are just like the hospital as far as their power draw. And I agree with that. But what I don't agree with is a hospital employs thousands and thousands of people and gives everyone economic growth. What does a data center do other than draw power? We all know our NIPSCO is growing up the wazoo. They're charging us more and more. Now, what are we doing here?
Well,
is
okay,
it going
so
to give us more jobs?
But here becomes the question, though. And again, I was watching something with Mike Rowe the other day. He was talking about, we need like 400,000 electricians in this country and things. We need people to work on ships. And his program, he's got this great program that's trying to help the trades, right? And we have this massive need. So again, you could say that. I mean, it's just like the roads. Well, what do the roads do? We got a whole bunch of guys that need to work on the roads, and it creates jobs. So yes, at the end of the day, not a lot of people work in that building after it's done, but there's a whole lot of trades that make good money to build it. But also on the back end, it provides a service. So you may look at it and say the job, and I'm going to blow Jim's mind on this. Pay attention to this point, Jim. The job isn't in the data center. The job is the traffic that flows through that data center. Because remember, we're essentially moving everything that we do on site to the data center. We're centralizing all of our work at the data center. So there are jobs being created by the data that's flowing through that facility. They're just not physically sitting in the building next to the computer like we've done for the last 40 years. That's the difference. The jobs are there. They're just not sitting in the same room as their computer like we did historically for the last generation or so. That's my point on that. The jobs are there. They're just not in that room.
Let Pete talk.
Go ahead.
It's a long haul. You're investing in the future of everyone being a remote worker instead of, that's what the data center is.
Right. So think about that. Perfect example. Okay, I'll give you that example. When my network went remote because of COVID, instead of us all sitting in the same building, all on the same network, we all went home with a laptop. Everybody got a VPN, and all of that traffic had to go somewhere. So my network migrated from physical servers on site to cloud-based infrastructure so we could all go home and work remotely. So like my business, because we were uniquely set up to manage that, we didn't skip a beat. It was like, hey, everybody, get scheduled to pick up your laptop, work from home. We were able to keep our network on the air because we had the infrastructure in place. So that's the point, is that all of those remote jobs that we're creating, that traffic needs to go somewhere. It needs to go VPN through the cloud to programs. So it is supporting jobs. They're just not physically sitting next to the computer.
Hey, Pete,
I mean, we're going from the bicycle to the motor T right here, to the motorcycle, or to the Ford. This is a big leap, and I think we need time to educate people so they understand that, because right now the boogeyman is winning, like you're saying, but rightfully so. I mean, this is a big change in life. Would you agree?
Well, I agree with you, but also we have to change at the pace of business. As the technologies to do everything cloud-based changes, we need to keep up with that. Imagine if our internet didn't keep up with this. Imagine if we were still on dial-up today. We wouldn't be able to do any of the things. Jim wouldn't be able to do any of the stuff with AI, any of the cloud-based stuff. Everything had to grow exponentially to keep up with the demand. And if we fell behind, we'd be sitting here on dial-up and China would be on broadband. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the point.
Can I ask you a question? Are you still living down south, or are you back in the region?
I'm in Norfolk, Virginia. And shipbuilding is definitely, Mike Rowe is incredibly correct. China built thousands of ships, and we built like
10.
A handful.
Yeah, we built and that's the point. Is that think about that. The technology, all of the things fell behind. Something that we used to lead the world at during World War II, we were building a ship a day, and now we can't even build like 5 or 10 in a year because we let it. And he talked about something. Even Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, mentioned this on a podcast. He talked about not only do you lose the ability to build it, but also when you go decades without building ships, what do you lose? You lose the knowledge to do it. Now you have a whole bunch of guys that nobody knows how to build a ship. Those guys retire, they pass away, and now you lose the knowledge. It's like going to space. Like, hey, we forgot how to go to the moon. You know what I mean? Because all of those guys have retired and passed away. So now you lose the knowledge.
Hey,
and I would tell you that now is the best time to get in those trades because of our current climate in the ethos of economics or whatever you want to call it. I'm trying to not be selective here in my words. That we have really put emphasis on cutting all the red tape out of the malarkey of the sucking mosquito that was this industry, and now we're getting closer to building ships a lot quicker.
Right, but you also need.
Hey, hold on a
Go
second.
ahead.
We got to slow this down. Hey, Pete, I hate to be the progressive guy, but I spent some time in Florida for like 5 or 6 days, and I don't know if you have this same problem in Virginia, but they have the worst pizza in the South. I mean, it's just awful. Every pizza, I ordered a pizza twice, and
it's like finding a butterfly in the swamps of Northwest Indiana. It's really hard. I'm telling you. Oh my God.
That's what I'm gonna do for retirement. I'm gonna move to Florida and open a legit Chicago food
All right, man.
restaurant.
Good to hear from you.
Okay, we got one more call. Then we're gonna take a break. No, one more call.
Bye.
Hey,
Bye.
appreciate it. We take one more call. We'll take a break, and then you guys do your segment. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Chuck.
Yes.
It's Mark.
Hey, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Jim. Good. So I was talking with the wife on Saturday, and what we're going to do in trying to beat NIPSCO is run my generator for 6 hours a day. It puts out 220, plug it into the breaker box down in the garage, turn the main off, and run it for 6 hours a day, and we're going to see what happens.
Okay, and but even despite that's an interesting idea, but I also talked about recently the idea of, starting you can go and buy a windmill for your house, you can buy solar for your house, you can have somebody install solar at your house. But the question is the local zoning laws keeping up with that so that you can try stuff like that? There are people go buy an electric car, go buy a power wall, and then have a windmill charge the power wall and then charge your car when you come home. Like, those are things that we could be doing if government allows you and if they even want to subsidize it. Those are things we can try. Maybe you call back in a few weeks and go, hey, Chuck, we're saving a bunch of money by running a generator, for 6 hours a day during peak demand. I don't know.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Are you going to be able to run your oven to bake your pizzas? I'm sorry.
No, John's Pizza and Aurelio's is fine for us.
All right, buddy.
There you go. Hey,
Thank you.
Appreciate the call. Nice. Mark grew up in the old neighborhood, old friend of mine. So, okay, let's take a break.
Next.
And then you're up next with Fox Point.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention, and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where